listening to Bold Calling, a podcast presented by Orem, where every episode we're bringing on the biggest and brightest minds in the tech and sales industries for a discussion about their biggest challenges and the unique ways they're working to solve them. I'm your host, Adam Sockel, and today I'm joined by Will Aitken, co-founder of SalesFeed, and most importantly, and I'm stealing this directly from his LinkedIn because it's the best thing I've seen in a while, Chief Vice Directing President of Managing Things for WillAitken.com. Congratulations on the title, Will. That's amazing.
Thank you. It's a recent promotion. And before, I was only the Vice President, Director, Assistant Manager of Managing Things at WillAitken.com. So it's been a really big upcoming for me in my career.
Yeah, listen, I can only hope that you will do right by the other Will Aitkens at WillAitken.com, and your leadership will only keep everyone soaring, everyone, rising tides and all those situations.
Right. To be fair, I mean, this immediately I'm taking some tangent here. I just hired an employee full-time to work for me, and giving them an email address, luke@willaitken.com, felt like one of the most egotistical things I've ever done. When I still need to think of a better name. There we are.
I think it's tough now. I mean, there's so many organizations out in the world. Actually, just a person I went to high school with. We have been recording for 1 minute. I'm already on tangents, but here we go. Somebody I went to high school with is launching his own company. The way that he had to name it, because it's like a play on certain words that already exist, like just the way that you have to spell things now to get a title that actually is not out in the world. So I think just using your name is okay, even though maybe it might feel egotistical. People will be able to find you.
It feels good to give the middle finger to all the other Will Aitkens out there who didn't get that domain name, I sometimes find them on LinkedIn. I send them an email like, loser. And I got willaitken.ca as well. So all the Canadian ones, I make sure to really make it sting,
Yeah, listen, you're doing the right thing, and I'm really, really proud of you. For people who, this may be the first episode you are listening into our Bold Calling podcast, the theme of this season is No Sleep Till Closed Won. And so the way that we're doing this is we're breaking up each episode into 3 segments. The first one, we're going to talk about Will and his background a bit and all the things that he's doing. Then the second segment will be kind of getting into the things that are keeping him up at night, stressing him out, how he's working to solve those. And then we'll have, I've been saying some fun in the third part, but I imagine this whole thing will be a lot of fun for us. So the third one will be some rapid fire, lighthearted questions. So first things first, for people, who maybe just know of you as an online presence who does very, very humorous things, but also very, very informative sales things, kind of a balance of the two. Kind of walk me through your history. How did you get to become the great overseer of WillAitken.com? I imagine that wasn't just an overnight thing.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. It definitely came about over a few years of doing work, creating content, getting to a place where I felt ready to oversee WillAitken.com, which is a very important role. Way back, I got started in sales about 8 years ago. Suffered my way through it, like most salespeople do. Didn't really have a clue what I was doing. Didn't get any great support from my manager. Then I got a job where I got a really good support from my manager, and I started overperforming, and that allowed me to spend some free time not worrying about sales and instead making stupid videos. And then the rest is kind of history. People apparently like them and still continue to like them, which is nice, because I'm waiting for the day that it's just gonna all stop and everyone's gonna be like, he's lost his edge, he's not funny anymore, but still going somehow.
I imagine we're making jokes, but the personality that you have, I imagine that was very, very beneficial for you as you started out in the sales space. Was this kind of the personality / persona you always had when you were, doing that cold outreach, trying to get a hold of people? Did you always have this sort of lighthearted, playful tone, or did it take a little bit for you to find that?
It definitely took a bit for me to find that. Like I don't think there's the safety always when you're doing cold outreach, even when you're like as an AE. I've never been an SDR, but anytime I've been an AE, I've had to do some prospecting for myself. You kind of there's this stigma about like you have to be buttoned up, you have to be professional, and also being more of yourself can sometimes make the rejection hurt more as well, because you're putting more of yourself into it, so it's easier to take it personally. But when I realized that selling and talking to people as yourself is way less exhausting because you're not pretending to be something you're not, but also way more fulfilling because just being you, things got a lot easier and a lot better, and I enjoyed sales a lot more. So to answer your question, no, I was doing the boring cold scripts, thinking it had to be a certain type of way. But then when I realized I could lean into the things that make me me, it became a lot more fun and a lot more successful.
Yeah, this big takeaway over the past several months of I've been working on this report all about AI and sales development. And then, with like, there's all this interesting conversations is back and forth, everything in the sales space, especially in B2B sales. I feel like it moves so lightning fast from what is the big thing, but in reality, it's really not, because now the kind of big conversation I'm seeing online is like, well, people really are appreciating when you just be yourself, and like, the humanity is coming back. It's like, that's back in vogue. Being a human being is back in vogue, which is great. But I do find it interesting where if you are able to, like you said, kind of be yourself and maintain that, like, hey, here's who I am, here's what I'm doing. Like, even on a cold call, I've seen so many clips where you've been using Orem and you're just like, listen, I know I caught you out of the blue here. That's like, I do feel using that humanity is so important, and people still respect that.
I think it's a lot easier for me to say now because I run my own company and there's less risk of this, right? But there's this realization that I even kind of spoke through it live as I was thinking about it on one of the live cold callings I was doing, where I was like, I may as well lean into 100% Will here. Drop the button down, the script that I was using, and just say what I would say if I had total freedom, which I do. And if they don't like it, in a way, they wouldn't have liked having a meeting with me anyway. You know what I mean? Like, they probably wouldn't have been the type of person who would have worked with me in any kind of capacity anyway. Now, that's easy for me to say when I'm running my own company, but the same can go for certain elements of sales. Like, if I'm an account executive and I'm trying to generate my own pipeline and I'm can't act myself, then what's the rest of that sales cycle going to look like thereafter? We're going to have awkward discovery meetings because they don't find me funny. or it's just going to be, I'm going to do something that's going to rub them the wrong way. So being your style, in a way, it almost disqualifies people who probably wouldn't have jived with you anyway. But it's much easier for me to say running my own company because I have full control over that. When you're in a sales role, you have the pressure of not being able to always say, hey, you get judged by a manager and stuff. Here, there's only my followers can judge me. And I'm sure they've already done that a few times.
But to your point, like, I've been thinking a lot about this. I was having a conversation yesterday, which yesterday means nothing to people listening to this because by that time it will be several weeks ago.
May 8th.
Exactly. There you go. Perfect. On May 8th, I was having a conversation with another guest of the show, and I was talking about the fact that, like, at Orem, we're really proud of the platform that we have and the tooling that we have available to people. But I believe in honesty, and, like, to be honest, our competitors have great tools too. That's sort of why that's one of the reasons why our tool keeps improving, is because there's pressure to keep innovating. But at the end of the day, we have so many people, whether they are customers or sales partners or influencers, who come to us and, like, basically say, like, hey, like, I just enjoy working with you all as people.
Yeah.
And I think that is something, to your point, whether you're a brand new SDR starting out or you're a seasoned, AE working with enterprise organizations, like, if the margins between what separates you and your competitors from a technology standpoint are really, really narrow, the people that they prefer to work with are the people that they're going to work with. And so I agree with you. Like,
I love that take so much. So much. Because, yeah, a lot of the time in SaaS, especially, and other spaces as well, obviously there's a huge gap and your thing sucks and the other person is great. It probably won't make all the difference even if you're amazing. You're going to get a lot of, like, you've been amazing, great rep. I hate those ones where you thank you, you're a really good sales rep. I'm like, oh, if only compliments paid the bills, eh? But if it's like a neck and neck race and you've just made that person happier, you've made them trust you, they enjoy speaking with you more, it can be the deciding factor. And I've had that several times, especially when I've been selling from a smaller company and I've been up against a big one, because those big ones don't have the flexibility to really lean in, do fun stuff. I always remember this deal way back in December 2020, should I say. And I was working this deal with an accounting firm, 30 users for a software platform. And we were up against someone and they came on the call and they said, look, well, we don't really see any differences between your platform. You sent us a video of you and the other account executives and SDRs on the team. And I'll send it to you if you want to insert it into this, singing a cover version of Deck the Halls with Lots of Holly, fa la 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 la. Something.
Literally deck the halls.
That's the name. Yeah, okay. So I nailed it. Yes. Anyway, we changed the words of that to make it work for our value prop, and we sent it to all the deals we had in pipe. And they said, we watched that as a team, and we just said, that's good people. And that's the type of people we want to work with. That video of us wearing stupid Santa hats and horribly singing it, was what made us win the deal, because everything else was the same. They just said, no, those are good people. And hearing that, I was like, wow, that's a good feeling.
Yeah, first off, as a person an organization I used to work for, my brother was also there, is called Overdrive. I've talked about it a few times now. It's an ebook and audiobook app. People can borrow books from the library on their app called Libby. He and I, they had an event called Digipalooza, which was their every other year, their kind of biannual user conference. And it was called Digipalooza, and it was shortened to DigiP. And we took Under the Sea from Little Mermaid and changed it to @DigiP, and made our entire organization
good
from like CEO all the way down to like brand new people. We basically made everyone sing along, and then our videographer there cut it into just an absolutely ridiculous video. And we sent it out, and people were like, we found budget to come to this because of your absurd song. Like
that's so good. And I mean, even like, I remember way back when I was a customer of Orem and I didn't have a decision-making role, but I was using it on a daily basis. There's the little things like that, especially when you bring in like senior leadership, not just a rep. Like, again, another thing that won me tons of deals when I was working for a small company and going up against these big dogs is I could get my CEO to record a quick video, just sent to the customer saying, hey, not asking for anything from you, just know that you work with Will. Want to let you know that I'm here if you need any help. And like the bigger companies could not send a Slack message to their CEO to say, hey, can you make a quick video to help this deal across the line before the end of the month? And Orem, way back when, your CEO, Jason, he jumped in and gave us cold calling training as part of our onboarding as a CEO doing that, because he said there's one thing to give people the tools, but if they're not successful on the phones, then we know that they're not going to get as much out of this as we know that they would. And doing things like that, I still remember that today, and that was almost 3 years ago now. So those little things that you can do, they really make all the difference.
Listen, we talked about standing out, and at Orem here just recently, we have these yellow analog phones that everyone seems to love. They say Orem. Yeah, Will's gonna go.
No, it's on the staircase. I'm gonna.
It's okay.
Darn it.
That's okay. So that's for people who are listening who maybe haven't seen them on social media. They're literally, picture the cordless or like corded phones that, I'm aging myself now, but I had when I was growing up. They would sit there and twirl the cord on your finger. We just got a bunch of this at Orem, and they connect to your computer, and people can use them to cold call, and everyone loves them. And we have been giving them away. And our VP of sales, Colin, did a video this week at Forrester, the B2B summit, where he had one of those, but he also had an actual banana, and he was like talking into the banana. He's like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And like, just like these silly little things that differentiate you from your competitors. And like, it's like, oh, not only do I like that platform, but they have a personality and they like to have fun. And like, it's interesting, the things that move deals along. This isn't a question. This was me just wanting to talk about our banana phone one more time.
I love the yellow phone. It's great video for video props as well, because it's so clearly a phone. It stands out.
Yeah. Transitioning into, like you said, now you own your own business and you run your own business, and I'm really excited to kind of get to the second segment of the podcast with you, because I think your take is going to be a lot different than the VPs and directors and even founders that I've talked to so far. Is, what is the thing that keeps you up at night? Like, what is stressing you out at night from a work standpoint that you're constantly trying to solve?
I have a common pattern of overcommitting myself, saying yes to a lot of stuff, saying I can get it done sooner than I think I will be able to do. You know that saying, you always overestimate what you can do in a day? Every day feels like that for me. And that means that I'm kind of always playing catch up. And it's part of the reason why I hired someone. And I'm trying to find ways and systems to get me caught up on that. But it's really hard to sit there at 10 o'clock at night, even if I'm tired, and think I could be doing this right now. And when it's just you working for yourself, it really is, it just comes down to you. So stretching myself too thin, saying yes to too much stuff, or even trying to over deliver, and in the process I almost sometimes over promise and under-deliver by trying to over deliver. I want to be able to say, I'm going to do all this for you because I really want to make this work, and then I fall behind, and that's an ongoing challenge that I've had to deal with in several different elements, whether it's balancing travel, because I always assume that I'm going to have downtime when I'm at a conference to get something done, but I never do, because there's always something pulling me away. or even it's just me sat at my desk and I just underestimate how long it might take to edit video or build a list of people to cold call, which I'm about to do right after this. And I've literally spent the last 20 minutes like speed importing contacts into my CRM so I can make sure I actually have people all listed up to dial. But that's a lot of my life playing catch up. And I think it's always been a bit like that. It's ADHD to a certain extent, but it's also part of like, I don't know, I do want to do well. I think I just sometimes think too much can mean not doing as well. And so I have to figure out that balance a bit more.
Yeah, I very much know exactly what you mean from a like tactical standpoint. Next week, our go-to-market leadership, we are all meeting together in Philadelphia to, talk about H2. And my best laid plans right now is I am planning to edit these podcasts in my downtime, of which I know I will actually have none. So I very much feel you there. And it's a constant struggle for me too. I am, in fact, my boss, Ting Ting, our VP of marketing here, implores me to try and say no more often. It's a struggle for me too. So how, you mentioned hiring someone. Are there ways that you personally are successfully overcoming this, or is it something that it's still very much a work in progress?
I think knowing where my time is actually valuably spent, so the reason I've hired someone is because I realized almost half my time right now was spent editing videos. And I love editing videos. I love that creative stuff. It feels satisfying for me to take something from not finished to finish. It's a satisfying process for me. But realistically, at my pay grade, if I was a video editor, I'd be the best paid video editor probably on the planet, right?
Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense for me to do that. And that's why I then looked into investing and bringing someone in for support on that. And before I had them, I started turning to freelancers, etc. So I think it's a case of figuring out what a low value task is and trying to find ways to delegate that or make it easier with tech or tools. There are so many tools out there that can make you more efficient. For example, to your point, I edit the 30 Minutes to President's Club podcast every week. There's 2 episodes a week. I found some really great AI tools that help me cut up the clips and have active speakers. And that saved me 3 hours on the edit on that, because that's one of the things I don't want to let go of, because I know it means so much to them to have a really high quality podcast production, because they're one of the bigger ones in sales. And I don't feel safe yet. Maybe one day when I get my new hire to that point, I don't feel safe yet letting go of that one. So knowing where to let go, and then when I don't let go, finding ways to make sure that's efficient. Time blocking is something that I've always had success with, but it drops off very quickly. Like I can get a week of, and I'm like, oh my God, I was so productive this week because I time blocked. But then the following week, I'm not religious enough of actually continuing that routine, that pattern, that habit of having really good time blocks and actually making sure those time blocks are the right size. As I said, I always underestimate how long something's going to take. It's really hard to walk away from something if it's not finished for me.
Yeah, for me, there's this phrase in sports that the best ability is availability. And in sports, it's basically like, it doesn't matter how talented of an athlete you are. If you're hurt, you're not going to help the team. Yeah. And I have always used it in my career, being like, I've overextended myself because I've been doing content marketing for 15 years. And when you first start out in content marketing, a lot of times what that means is you're doing social media. And if it's a global company, you feel like you always have to be available. And I have exponentially grown in my career in part because I'm available all the time. And it's very hard now as a person who, in theory, I'm supposed to be more strategic and less like in the weeds on stuff. But I've been doing things in the weeds literally for 15 years. And so I'm like, it's so hard to pass those things off and trust.
Yeah. And to your point, both sales and I think marketing as well, in an element of this, it's one of those jobs where the job is never really done if you want to excel at it. There's always something more you can do. If it's in sales, it's activity outbound. If it's in marketing, it's getting on social media, observing things, looking for inspiration, or creating the next big idea that you have, or coming up with ideas. It's never really done. So you need to decide the limits of where that is. Otherwise, you will just work all the time. And then, as you said, you don't do good work when you're totally burnt. And recognizing that is part of the process of realizing, okay, I need to protect my time. I need to say yes to the stuff that's actually going to do the most for us.
So to that point, I told you before we started recording, I was thinking about this conversation last night, which is indicative of the conversation we were
Aw.
just having about not. Yeah, I was like, you know who I really adore? That Will Aitken of WillAitken.com. He's a really great guy. But no, I wanted to ask you about kind of like refilling your cup from a creativity standpoint, because you're right. Again, working in content, a perfect example of this is as we speak on May 9th, we are getting ready to roll out this AI report, which is our huge the Q2 pillar piece that will drive organic traffic and hopefully a lot of demand gen, as one of our demand gen people is hanging out as the producer on this podcast episode now. But I'm thinking through this. We're just getting it into design to then put out into the world. And I'm already starting to think about the survey we're going to run that will turn into our Q3 piece. And it's like, it's always that next thing. And then in the meantime, I'm also trying to think of like, okay, well, what's the daily shorts we can put out and TikToks, and what can I put on LinkedIn this afternoon so that we keep driving traffic? And I have never found a way to fix my burnout other than like I work until I get burnt out and then I go to Mexico or Scotland for a week or whatever it is. Like for you, how, especially now with working for yourself and also like representing so many different brands and needing to create content for all these different places, how do you refill your cup from a creativity standpoint? Like what helps you do that?
People. I think talking with people, actually, and this is why when I first started working for Vidyard's media brand sales feed, which I'm now co-founder of or co-owner of, technically didn't found it. It's a long story, but there was this team of people who I could always rely on to bounce ideas off or get excited or share energy with. And now I'm working a lot on my own. It's a case of finding people who I can work with around me. So whether that be peers, I have a lot of online fake beef with Jen Al and Ganoof, but we probably talk twice a week, and those conversations really fill my cup a lot, and make me feel less alone in it. And sometimes you can get this gut feel and this instinct for what's going to work and what's going to be good, but it's hard to trust that always, and you can sometimes pursue an idea that's just going to turn out rubbish. So sometimes just talking to someone, having someone to bounce ideas off, is really helpful for me. The second thing is consuming. I don't get ideas editing videos. I get ideas consuming new content, whether that's something on LinkedIn, something on TikTok, something on YouTube. And it's not always, all the content I make is B2B sales related, but the content that inspires me that I consume rarely is. The stuff that really inspires me is the stuff that I enjoy and seek out on my own. And just consuming things gives me new ideas, new perspectives. Even if that perspective isn't one that I share, it can give me a reason to think about it. So from reading books to watching YouTube videos in my downtime to scrolling the feed, and this is where I try to do that as intentionally as possible to make sure it's not a total time sink. That's where I get a lot of my creativity from. And if I don't do that in a while, that's where I start to feel a little bit burnt out in terms of like, I've got no ideas left. Being intentional about how I consume content and talking to people is the short answer.
Do you give yourself like a cutoff of any sort? I'm asking because I think I might have told someone else this, but like my fiance is also in B2B startup marketing. She does demand gen for a cybersecurity company. I think we almost jokingly we're like, it gets to a certain point after dinner where we're like, okay, no more open rate conversations, no more headline discussions. Like we have to watch the Great British Baking Show in Zona, whatever it is. Like, do you give yourself a cutoff, or especially now working for yourself and doing your own thing? Is it kind of 24/7 always on? This is more like therapeutic for me than for the podcast I'm finding at this moment.
I'd love to tell you that I stop thinking about it sometimes, but I'm always kind of thinking about it somewhere in my mind. I've got to the point where my wife doesn't work in demand gen, but she's so sick and tired of hearing about me and my content that we don't talk about it. And to be honest, when she talks about accounting, it bores the crap out of me as well. So we find other things to talk about, and that's a good release. I also have 2 kids, and frankly, 4-year-olds don't really care about the best cold call opener. So yeah, I know, right? Little slacker. He's not going to President's Club. No way. But playing with him and just doing stuff like that, it's knowing when I should be thinking about it, when I shouldn't, and drawing those lines. There's also only so much I can do. that said, there are times on the weekend where I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a great idea. Or I'm thinking about something, or I'm checking the emails. And it's something that's ongoing. I don't think you can just suddenly say one day I'm going to set boundaries and those boundaries magically appear. It's something that you learn over time. Okay, I need these boundaries. How am I going to work on them one bit at a time? Whether it be at 5 o'clock, I'm done. And that's really hard, especially as a founder, you know? It's really hard when there's still work left to be done. At 5 o'clock, I'm done. And on those days, I sometimes go, okay, you know what? I'm going to finish at 5, hang out with my kids, have dinner, sit down with my wife, watch some TV. She goes to bed at like 9:30, and I'm going to go an hour and a half to catch up after that. And that doesn't sound that healthy, but it is healthier than me spending that entire 5 hours kind of working, kind of doing something, and not giving those people who I care about 100% of myself.
Yeah. I think what you just described is as healthy as you can, especially in like tech and like that. I feel like that is, if I was to describe my days to my parents, and I do sometimes, they'd be like, oh my God, you're working till 10 o'clock. I'm like, well, there's a run in there and there's a dinner in there, but yes, yes, I am. But I'm also just now thinking about one of my nieces or nephews calling and asking if I have 25 seconds to talk about Bluey or something. And yes, I do. 100%.
Hello, it's Archie here. Dada, do you have 25 seconds to help me build Legos? I'm like, yeah.
Yes,
No.
I do. What?
Send me an email about this, buddy. Bye.
Yeah. I'll follow up. I promise. I'll open it. All right, let's transition to the third segment of the show here, where we're just a little speed round of some fun questions. So the first one is, what was the first job you ever had? This can be the first job when you were a kid. It can be out of college, whatever you want to talk about. Your first job.
I was a bar nightclub promoter in Oxford, United Kingdom. One of the worst bars there. That's why they needed promoters. So every Friday and Saturday night, it was during my first year of university when I was 18 years old, I'd just go stand out in the street of Oxford and hand out flyers or try and grab groups and drag them into the bar.
Was it like, I'm just picturing a Will Aitken with like 5 buttons unbuttoned and like sunglasses.
Yeah, it wasn't, the UK isn't quite that tropical. The bar was a Hawaiian themed bar, but Mai Tais and stuff. But I had a dress code. I had to wear a blazer. And this bar had sticky floors, so I don't know why they had me dress up so much, but yeah. It was quite fun. They didn't actually pay me that they were so slow to get my stuff on payroll that by the time they put me on payroll, it was the week I quit. And they ended up paying me like a fifth of what I was due for the hours I'd worked. And I never chased them on it. So
I think that might be lost money. The next question is, what was your worst job? But I'm worried it might be the same job.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would actually say the worst job I ever had. Oh, it's a hard one actually, because when you go to Australia, which is where I met my Canadian wife, which brought me to North America, you can do work on a farm to earn a second year of a visa there, and so you get 1 year as a Canadian or a Brit, and I think the US gets 1 year as well. You just apply for it; they give it to you most of the time. But the Canadians and the British can work on a farm somewhere in Australia because they have a worker shortage. And you can work on like an orange farm, an apple farm, pineapple farm, whatever it may be. And I worked on a potato farm driving a tractor, which was pretty fun. But then I lost that job because the season ended. And we went and worked on an orange farm, which wasn't paid by the hour, it was paid by the bin of how much fruit you pick that day. And you would have to be very, very quick and very, very fit to fill up a bin at a rate that would give you any kind of reasonable hourly wage. And so I went to work on an orange farm, and these orange trees were just packed full of spiders. And I don't mind spiders that much, but big spiders and poisonous spiders, I'm obviously going to have a few objections about that one. And you had to get right inside the tree to get the ones in the middle. If you didn't pick the tree right, they'd dock your pay. And that was rough. I only did that for 5 days, but it was sweaty work. My wife and I were working together. She was quite slow and she hates spiders, so she wasn't really getting in the tree. So I was doing a lot of the grunt work and she was kind of doing the stuff on the outside. No shade to her. I get it. It was a bad job, and that's why we left after 5 days and probably made about $200 in that time between us.
And I I like just last night saw a TikTok of a person who she's a like 5th generation tree planter in I think British Columbia.
Yeah.
It's talking about like she makes it's like 19 cents per tree she plants. And it's just like that.
It's backbreaking work.
It looks rough. Yeah. Do you have a favorite app for productivity, like that you use during your day that's really helped maximize what you can do?
Do you mind if I have a look at my phone real quick? Because I need to drop
I don't mind at all. I also appreciate you not saying Orem because that would have been hokey and, you know.
He's like, all right, everyone just stop listening right there with the full plug. I don't use Orem every day. I use it once a week for my live cooling. Let me just have a quick look. One that I use every day, I would have to say, I make a lot of video content, but I also do a lot of design as well. So it's somewhere between my editor, which I use DaVinci Resolve, or Canva, because I'm not design savvy and they do a lot of the work for me. And Photoshop scares the crap out of me. I have to watch a YouTube tutorial just to do one thing that I could have done in Canva in 2 seconds, right? So I'd probably say Canva, to be honest.
Yeah. Canva, I feel like, has been this like tool that I've been using for so long that I started using it because same thing, I have no design skills. And if our designers at previous companies weren't available to help me with something, I was like, well, I got it. Photoshop scares me, so I'm going to use Canva. And now it's like all this time later that people are still like, yeah, no, it's actually wonderful. I fully agree there. How about for fun? Like, do you have an app that you love for fun? Is it, it could be TikTok or Instagram or something like that, or it could be a games or something you like.
Let me have another look.
Zone out and use.
Fun apps that I have on here. Let me just have a look. This is so lame looking at this and not seeing anything that I really find that fun. Does Popeye's app count? No. I spend a lot of time on more than I should probably, and I've gone through phases of deleting it and reinstalling it on Reddit. Mainly just because I find it that there's such a wealth of information that I can go down some serious rabbit holes, and I love reading about new stuff and learning about it. Like when I was at university, I would do this weird thing. I would see something and I'd want to know what it was. Like, for example, I went to university in Brighton, and out in the distance in the sea, there was like this lighthouse, but it was like a platform. And I looked at it and I was like, I need to know what that is. So then I like went on, like did all this research and landed on the Wikipedia page of it, and just found myself down this rabbit hole. And I find myself doing that a lot. And Reddit's one of the places where I do that. There's sides of the app that I don't like, which is like any social media can be bad, but I find Reddit can be very negative, and that can have an impact on my headspace. So I need to recognize when that is, and that's why I've sometimes deleted it, sometimes bring it back, sometimes deleted it. So that's probably where I spend a lot of time.
What is describe like an ideal work day for you?
It's a good question. Probably maximum of 3 external facing calls. Any more than that, and I find myself not productive. Something where I get something new produced, reach new people, do some prospecting, knock off at least 2 things from my weekly to-do list, and then finish on time and accomplish what I set out to do that day. And that really often comes down to not how productive I am, but how much I try to stretch myself. Like if I look at my 7 days a week planner, I can look at the days where I didn't hit my goals. I'm like, no, duh. Like how many things do you think you're going to get done in that day, right? It's really easy to reflect on that. So it really comes down to setting the right goals for me to feel fulfilled and knowing that I've done well that day. Because otherwise I could write 100 things in there, I'm never going to get them done, right? So it's setting the right goals for myself.
I'm very good at writing a to-do list the night before every day and be like, I'm going to get all this done for sure. And then hating myself when I get to it. Yeah, no, I'm not. Absolutely. All right, last question for you. What is a cold call opener or pitch that would get you to at least stay on the phone with the person who had called you?
There's very few calls that I won't stay on the phone for, if I'm honest. And I might be an exception case to this. I find a lot of salespeople and sales leaders kind of fall into this camp of like, I'll always hear someone out for 2 reasons. Number one, they're going to do something bad. 3 reasons. Number one, I have empathy for what they're doing, right? I get it. And I respect the grind. And anyone who's cold calling these days immediately is getting way more of my attention than someone who's emailing or LinkedIn. My LinkedIn inbox is just it's horrible. Like there's nuances to that, obviously. If someone cold calls me, I'm always going to hear them out. So with the exception. So I would hear any cold call. I would stay on the line for any cold call. except for the ones that are so blatantly trying to get me to sign up for a credit card. But those ones drive me nuts because I get 5 of them a week, and I'm like, I've got enough credit cards. Not that I have lots. I'm very intentional about my credit cards. I love my points. I love getting my air miles. I love getting my Aeroplan points for Air Canada. I love getting my cash back. I know what credit cards I have. I'm not going to sign up for a new one no matter what anyone does, because I'm always planning that with my wife. We'll be like, okay, now you've got the bonus points for this one. Let's do Will next, and now I'll get the bonus points for that, and then we'll add them. Like, I just know I've got that down. There's very little someone could say to me to make me want to get a new credit card, because I've already thought about it so much. So when someone calls me and says, "Hello there, it's so and so from Scotiabank. Just a heads up, this call is being recorded. How are you today?" I'm like, I know what this is, and I'll get so many of these, and I'm like, I always try and be kind, and I'm just like, I'll be really honest. This just isn't interesting for me, and I would appreciate. I don't really look into credit cards, so if you could make a note, I'm just not going to be good for you. And then normally they're like, no worries, have a good one. Sometimes they'll fight me a little bit on that, and that's probably the only time I've ever been mean to a salesperson and really hate myself for it, because I hate the fact that people chew out salespeople. Because I was having a horrible day, and this person was like, "Well, if you," and then they're trying to tell me, and I was like, "Mate, enough." I had to get stern. I don't like that. I don't like doing that, and I still think about it today because I feel so bad, because I'm meant to have empathy with these people, but sometimes everyone has a bad day, and on that day, yeah. So, to answer your question, cold call, any cold call, you could say whatever you want, as long as you're not blatantly calling on behalf or in association with Scotiabank to sell me a credit card.
Beautiful, beautiful. Where can people find more information about you and get a hold of you? And we've been making jokes about WillAitken.com, obviously, but where else can they track you down if they want to see more of the stuff you're doing?
I have a lot of fun on LinkedIn, obviously. That's a great place to find me. And also on my YouTube, which is, our YouTube, should I say, for Sales Feed. I have a lot of fun making those videos. They don't make me any money, so if I'm doing them, then it's normally because I actually want to. And that content often turns out to be the best. So Sales Feed on YouTube, great place to go. Subscribe, check out some of the old videos. There's great stuff on there, and look up for the new ones.
Beautiful. I will make sure all that is in the show notes as well. Will, I really appreciate you joining us today before you get on your marathon cold call-a-thon. So, thank you for joining me today. This was a blast.
It was a blast. Thank you so much for inviting me on, Adam.